I'm really looking forward to this one with you all today. But before we get started, if you could just go to the chat section and let me know that you can hear me okay and that you can see the webinar deck that we have on the screen. That would be really, really useful. I'd really appreciate that. And then we will get started in a couple of minutes. I want to make sure that we are get started as close to on time as possible. As always, we wait for just a couple of minutes to make sure that everybody has time to join, but I won't drag that out for too long because I know everyone who's here's time is very valuable. Okay, great. Hi, Todd. Thank you for joining us. Natalie, hello. Welcome, everybody. Cool. So we'll get started probably in about 30 seconds or so. Before we do that, though, I can see some familiar names already, which is great. But if you could let me know if this is your first time on one of these webinars or if you've been on one, that would also be very useful. First time for Michael, first time for me, first time for Leah. Todd is back again. Okay, so I see that Michael also said that my audio is not too good. Is anybody else having that problem, or is the audio okay now? Okay, let me see if I can change that. Only for 2 seconds, I'll try and switch microphones. Okay, just testing the audio one more time. Can you hear me any better this time, everybody? I've just switched around the microphone. As for some reason, it was picking up the headphones rather than my actual microphone. Okay. So Michael said worse, but everybody else has said it sounds good. So let me just test one more thing because we never usually have a problem with the audio, and I do have quite an I do a podcast myself, so I have a pretty serious audio setup. So and I just did a webinar right before this one, and there were no issues. So let me try a couple more things, and then play around a little bit. Okay, everybody, we will get started in a couple of moments' time. I'm just trying to make sure that we have the best audio and visual setup for all of you. As I said, we never usually have problems, but let me just see what we can do here. Just see if I can switch audio sources at all. Okay, so it's good now? Is that better? I can see a few of you typing. Okay, great. I'm so sorry about that. As I said, sometimes this webinar software messes with the audio a little bit. I run my own podcast, so I have this like very expensive audio setup, which is perfect on every other software. But I think we're good now. So let's get straight into things. Let's get started. Apologies to anyone if we run over the start time a little bit, but I wanted to make sure that you all had the best kind of audio and visual experience possible. So I can see a lot of you engaging, talking in the chat section, which is incredible. It makes these webinars so much better if we have people like you, people who are here to ask questions, who are going to share in the content and all that kind of stuff. So thank you all for being so active there. Today, we are going to be covering 5 content marketing experiments which you should run in 2019. So this webinar is one that I'm looking forward to a lot. It's going to be very value packed for all of you, and I hope you all enjoy it a ton. So this is today's agenda. We're going to talk about why content is still king in 2019 and why it's so important. I'm going to give you 5 different experiments that you can go away and play around with and test within your content marketing strategies for either your own agency, for your clients. And then we'll talk briefly about how you can then go ahead and measure the success of these experiments. So before we get started, it is very important that I introduce myself to you because I know, yes, we have a lot of repeat offenders, if you want to call them that, people who have been on our previous webinars who are here today, which is incredible, but I saw that there was also a ton of new people here. So my name is Dylan Hay, and just like a lot of you here, I am also a marketing agency owner. So I don't actually work for Promo Republic. I work with them and I help them. They're a client of mine, but I'm an agency owner. I quit my job in May of last year. I worked for a couple of fairly well-known SaaS companies. One of those was Hootsuite. Some of you may have heard of those guys. And I decided to start my own agency in 2018. So I face a lot of the same struggles that you guys and girls face, and I have some really good experience within this niche. I managed to grow my agency to a 6-figure business within 5 months of launching. As I said, previously worked at some big companies. I also host a top 15 iTunes podcast, which is called the Social Media Growth Show. That's been on a little break recently, but will be coming back soon. I think that's enough about me because these webinars are totally focused on providing value for all of you. This webinar is part of a series of webinars and part of a big content picture. So it's part of something called the Promo Republic Agency and Freelancer Academy. And earlier on this year, or last year now, Promo Republic launched an agency-specific version of their platform, which I'll tell you a little bit about later on. And part of that launch strategy was, hey, we want to become the leading place, the number one space where agency owners and freelancers can go to learn, to grow their businesses, and provide this value to them completely free. And that's why this webinar series is here. We also have some other content pieces like helpful articles, templates. Very recently, 2 weeks ago, we did an online summit, a 2-day summit with speakers from 14 different companies from around the world. And I'm just fortunate enough to be the person that is the face of this program, that is leading this program. And I love engaging with all of you and helping you out and answering your questions and sharing my experiences with you. So that's a little bit about me, and I'm really excited to have you all here today. So thank you very much for committing the next kind of 35, 40 minutes to be spent with me. I really appreciate it, and I'm going to do my best to give back to you and make sure that you see the value that you deserve from this webinar today. Okay, so let's get started. Why are we going to be talking about content? And first of all, why the fact that content is still king in 2019? This is something that's really important. Content marketing, of course, is not a new concept within this world of digital marketing. But right now, I personally think it's more important than ever before. I would definitely say that content is king, and it's increasingly working its way to the forefront of every digital marketing strategy that I can think of. It's such a crucial element that brings such huge rewards. And this stat that I shared on the screen, this is one of the reasons why content is so important. How many of you use ad blockers? I'm going to ask you that question. Like, how many of you use the ad blocking software to stop ads coming up on YouTube videos? How many of you block out your Facebook feeds or your LinkedIn ads and feeds? Yep, get that. Joel says, yep, Lee does, Mike does, Leah, Natalie, Mark, Elaine. So look at this. So many people use ad blockers. And the statistic actually that I found is that 30% of all internet users will be using ad blockers in 2019. Now, I preach about ads because my agency, we run paid acquisition campaigns for SaaS businesses. So I love ads. But 30% of internet users will be using ad blockers. That means 30% of internet users aren't going to be seeing ads. They're just going to be seeing real, organic, native content. And if your content is no good, if it's not interesting, if it's not engaging, if it doesn't stand out from the crowd, you're already setting yourself way behind. So content is so important. It's the way that you can stand out from others, it's the way that you can differentiate from others. And right now, it's a way that you have to be using content, otherwise you're automatically losing out at least 30% of the market. But in saying that, like a one-size-fits-all approach to content marketing will not suffice when it comes to good content. Instead, I recommend that people focus on creating unique, high quality, and completely authentic content that is focused on being entertaining, useful, and interesting for consumers. And that's what's going to get you this crown that we see in the picture here. Whether it's a text post, a video post, an image post, infographics, surveys, webinars like this one, whatever your preferred content method is, you have to ensure that it's shareable and extremely relevant to your industry. And this is just so important moving forward. When we did the online summit 2 weeks ago, the CEO and co-founder of Premier Republic, Max, gave a talk about the key marketing trends to look out for in 2019. And I did the same at the end of last year too. And one of those for me, and I think for Max too, was that content is so important still. I know it seems very obvious, but now as it's becoming easier to post content on social for your clients, whether it's easier to create content because content is so important and everybody is now doing it, just posting content is not enough anymore. Be right. Your businesses and your clients' businesses used to get ahead of the crowd just from posting consistently, but that's not enough anymore. It's so more important than focusing on quality content. I want to share the statistic with you because I just love that kind of thing. I love sharing stats. And you'll see that 86% of consumers state that authenticity is an important factor when deciding which brands to support. And this is a study by Stackler. So this number is even higher than 86% among millennials. And that's because people placed so much more trust in humans than in brands. Things like influence marketing has been and still is trending upwards. And although people are starting to become blind to ads, right? So authentic content generated voluntarily by fellow customers and by brands themselves, that's the kind of stuff now that is catching people's eye. And that's something that's really important. And I've said this a couple of times already, but one thing is so clear to me from working with our clients, from being in this industry for a while now, and that is that authenticity always wins when it comes to content, every single time. So you have to make, this is one recommendation from me actually, is make an effort to motivate your customers and your clients' customers to share their experience with your brands on social. And it will definitely pay off for sure. Like consumers are 3 times more likely actually to say that content created by a fellow consumer is authentic compared to a brand trying to create authentic content. So what I mean by that, hopefully that's clear, but consumers on average will say that user-generated content seems 3 times more authentic than a brand trying to create content themselves. So for your clients, for your business yourself, like all of your customers, you should be encouraging them as much as possible to share their own experiences, and then you should go out and share those with people too, because it will really help you out. Okay, cool. So let's get into the thing that most of you came here for, right? These 5 content experiments that you can test. So how many of you in here are running social media agencies, or you're a freelancer maybe, but like how many of you are doing content creation for clients? Let me know. Just say yes in the chat if you are doing that. I'm hoping that quite a large number of you will be. I'm assuming that you will, because of course, this webinar is focused on people just like you, social media agency owners, but I just want to double check. So Joel says yes, Leah says yes, Elaine yes, Julie yes, Caitlin yes, Ben yes, Anisha yes, Manuel no, Helber yes, Julius will be starting at the end of this month, Marilyn yes. Great. Okay, thanks everyone for sharing that with me. I appreciate it. So as a social media content creator or a social media agency owner, when it comes to creating content, it's not all just memes and fluffy kittens, right? You have marketing goals as well, and your clients have marketing goals. And while some days are a stroll in the park, other days feel like you're going round and round in circles, and maybe your content isn't getting any traction whatsoever. I know what it's like. I've been there. But today I'm going to give you, after a lot of experimentation myself, after coming up with some ideas, after reading other people's experiences, today I'm going to share with you 5 social media experiments that you can try that are going to help you do things slightly differently. So you're not going to be banging your head about what can I try next. These are just some experiments that you can try. But before we dive into these, there are a couple of warnings that I need to share with you. The first one is don't try and do everything on this list at the same time. I would recommend that you listen to this, read through it, and pick out 1 or 2 that look promising for your situation or for your client's situation. Then go and make a plan about how and when you want to implement those. So we'll talk about that later on too, about how you can execute on these experiments, but I want you to make sure you take stock of your current position, because trying new things and experimenting is fine, but unless you have a benchmark, there's no way to know whether or not you've improved. So each of these social media experiments will need their own measures. For example, maybe you wanted to increase your engagement on Instagram. Before you do that, you need to know what your current levels are and what your goals are, for example. So let's get into things. Number one, my very first tip. It seems fairly simple, but this is something that I've leveraged myself personally, and a lot of other brands are now leveraging too. How many of you are creating blogs for your clients, or how many of your clients have blog posts? They're spending time on copywriting, creating these posts. Maybe you're spending time on them. And then, well, actually, let's see that. Yeah, so Todd says yes, Joel says yes. I know a lot of you are going to say yes to this. One of the biggest issues with blogs, yes, they're great for driving organic traffic to a website. They're great for engaging people and entertaining people. One of the big problems is that people will create a blog. They'll share that they've created the blog, so maybe they'll send it to their email list, or they'll share it on social media, and then that's it. They won't touch it again, and they won't repurpose that content. So one recommendation from me, I do this with my podcast as well, is to repurpose blog posts into videos, because videos are excellent for generating engagement on social media, yet some people are hesitant to create videos because it's often outside of their comfort zone. So the good news is you don't have to be a pro videographer anymore to produce good videos for social media. The stat that I'm showing here, social video posts generate 1,200% more shares than standard text or image posts, right? So the great thing is there's this tool. I think they have a free version, I believe, but there's probably a paid version too. And it's called Lumen 5. How many of you have heard of Lumen 5? Basically, what Lumen 5 does is you can plug in your what's the word, your feed from your blog, or you can go in and enter it manually, and it will use its artificial intelligence to create a video story for you off the back of that blog. So it will pull through some of what it thinks are the key sentences. It will bring in images, etc. And you can play around with those. You can change the sentences and the text, of course. You can change the images. It will put it into a little video for you, and you can share it on social immediately. Like, you can create these videos very quickly. This is a great tool. It's something that I've used for my podcast. I can share some examples with you guys. If you wanted to check them out, just let me know. But yeah, this is a great tool and one that I would really recommend. And this is a great way to not only to reuse and repurpose your client's content, but to get more eyes on this quality content, because often content on a blog is really valuable content. So I see Marilyn says, I have it and I don't find it very easy. And then Elaine has said, Marilyn, honestly, it is easy. So Marilyn, would love to hear what problems you've had with it maybe, and see if we can help out, because I've found the process with Lumen 5 very, very straightforward. Maybe I'd recommend checking out a couple of their how-to videos or guides, or maybe Elaine in here could help you out. Maybe she could give you some advice if you guys connect it. But I really would recommend anyone whose client has a blog, I'd recommend trying Lumen 5. If you're not creating the blogs for your clients, but they still have one, this could be a great way to incorporate those blogs into the social media strategy that you come up with for your clients, and they'll be really pleased to see the fact that you're repurposing some of their other content as well. So, Elaine and Marilyn, it's great to connect you. Elaine, if you could help Marilyn, that would be awesome. A really good way to connect is maybe in the Agency and Freelancer Academy Facebook group that we have. That could be a good way for you guys to start that conversation. So if you haven't joined that already, go to Facebook and check out for Agency and Freelancer Academy, and you should find that group and you can connect there. So this is the first tip, and I actually have tip 1.5 off the back of this. So the second tip, well, it's not the second tip, but tip 1.5 is using repeating posts. So rescheduling and recycling content. Let's say one thing I said earlier on is often the clients will create these blogs, they'll share them once and they'll forget about them. You'll probably create this video, you'll share it once and you'll forget about it. You probably create a lot of social media posts, like you create full content calendars for your clients, right? And you never or rarely recycle the best performing posts. Now, one of the great things about Promo Republic and the agency solution that we have, one of the many incredible features is this repeating posts feature, where you can effortlessly reuse your best posts to drive more traffic and save time for yourself. So rather than just posting something once, you can then go through, see which posts have performed best, and you can reschedule them and schedule them to go through and be posted, let's say, every single week on a Tuesday, or X amount of time between now and this date. So this feature is really, really awesome, and I would definitely recommend checking it out. How many of you have used recycling or repeating posts in the past? Have any of you tried recycling your content? Because I would say to you that is a great way to drive more engaged traffic. Awesome. So a lot of you are saying yes, which is incredible. Um, I'm not going to talk loads about the Promo Republic agency special like solution right now, but this is one of the features of Promo Republic. Some of you will know that, some of you won't. But if you do want to find out a bit more about how the Promo Republic agency solution is better than the like standard Promo Republic for agency owners and for freelancers, how it can save you time, how it can generate you more revenue, and how it can just improve your workflows and your relationships with your clients, I'm sharing a link in the chat box right now. And this is a link where you can actually schedule a call with a member of the Promo Republic team, and they will answer any questions you have about the agency specific version of the platform. They will maybe show you the platform in all of its glory and help you out. And they will also offer you a special discounted price. This is only for people on this webinar. There's a special discounted price available for the agency solution. But the team are only able to have 5 calls booked this week from this webinar. So if you would want to learn a bit more about the agency solution, I'd encourage you to book a call using that link. But I'll talk a little bit more about some of the ways that Promo Republic can help you out a little bit later on in this webinar. So Henk says, after how much time should you repeat a post? So let's go back to the screen for a second, Henk. My answer to you, sir, would be there is no specific amount of time. I let posts run and see which ones perform best. So I'll look at my analytics. You can either do it weekly, monthly, and I will repeat my top performing posts. Or if there's a post that I know I want to reshare, like it's an evergreen piece of content, I will set up the repeating schedule immediately. So I hope that helps for you. Number 2, my second tip, content marketing experiment tip that you can run for 2019 is this one. Host your own giveaway. How many of you run marketing for maybe local businesses, restaurants, bars? To be honest, this will probably work with 90% of businesses, but the example here is from a juice bar that a friend of mine runs the marketing for. So how many of you have experimented actually with giveaways? Have any of you tried a giveaway with some of your clients? Do any of you, of course, like a lot of you will know what giveaways are, so I'm not going to explain that. But what you see on the screen here, this isn't one of my clients, but a friend of mine who's in one of the same mentoring groups as me, he runs giveaways for businesses, and that's exactly what he does. And this is one of his results. He didn't spend, I think he spent like $8 in ads on this post, and it generated 263 shares, 1,500 comments, and was seen by over 29,000 people. So this was a great way to improve brand awareness for his client, but ultimately it generated some great revenue for them too, because they had a great back-end offer in place for people that went through this giveaway funnel too. Before you host it, it's really important to decide what you want to achieve from that giveaway. Short term, you might get some likes and comments and shares and new followers, but you need a strategy in place to keep that interaction going in the long term. I always say don't run a giveaway just to get attention. Run one that makes you money. If you don't understand the lifetime value of your customer and set it up to maximize return, then you're not doing things right. I see people that are always trying to run giveaways, and 9 out of 10 of them are doing it wrong. It's definitely an art and a science for giveaways. You like this person here, for example, they gave away free shakes for a year for one lucky person. So of course, lots of people entered, and it was great for increasing like brand awareness. But they also had a back end offer where they offer some health coaching, and that costs $200 a month, and they managed to land quite a few health coaching clients off the back of this too. So always be strategic with your giveaways. And an advanced tip is to run ads to your giveaway post, like run a small budget to the giveaway post and connect it up to a chatbot like ManyChat, like a comment growth tool they have, where every time someone comments with a specific term that you ask them to, it will collect them in ManyChat, and then you'll have a chatbot subscriber as well, and then you can follow up with all of the subscribers. So this is a great method, and one that I think a lot of you could see some good results from testing this year. So I see that Marilyn says we're a B2B agency, so no, giveaways wouldn't work for us, or we haven't tried them. Giveaways do work within the B2B space as well, Marilyn. If you think about it, I don't know if you were involved in the agency and freelancer growth online summit that Promo Republic put together a couple of weeks ago, but ourselves, the team at Promo Republic, actually put together a giveaway. And basically, if you signed up for the summit and you shared it with some friends, one person was selected to receive a free annual subscription to Promo Republic. And this worked out really well. We got a lot of leads, a lot of people sign up, for the a lot of people sign up for the summit as a result of the viral effect with that. Okay, so let's move on to the next tip of mine. Tip number 3. How are you guys and girls enjoying this so far? And I also see Julia says we always work for non-profit organizations. Julius, I'm not too sure. I don't have a ton of knowledge within that space, to be honest. I don't know what else this webinar does. If you do, then please help out. But I think giveaways can always be valuable. It depends on what your what your goal is when you're setting up those giveaways. Okay, so tip number 3, use polls to boost engagement. These are a great way to generate some additional engagement and to spice up your content again. People just can't resist answering questions on social media, so running a poll is almost guaranteed to generate additional interest and engagement on every single different social media network. On Instagram stories, you have 2 options. So you can do poll stickers and emoji slider polls. On Facebook, you can create a poll that asks a question and lets people choose one of 2 options. So you could pitch one product against the other, or you could ask questions to help you learn more about your audience. And Twitter allows you to add up to 4 options to a poll, but you can't include photos. So yeah, Hank says polls on Facebook only allow 2 options. Yes, they do. But I still feel like 2 options is more than enough. I think like it's a good way to do some testing, to do some lead generation. You see, this is an option, an example, sorry, that I took from Catio. Just they use this as like a lead generation piece for them as well. So yeah, polls to boost engagement is something that I always find polls to be useful when I'm trying to pick up additional people, when I'm trying to re-engage old prospects and old contacts. Martin says, is the presentation available to download? So this will be shared in the Promo Republic Agency and Freelancer Academy on our website and on YouTube as well. So yeah, it's recorded and you'll be able to get access to that. Okay, number 4. Let's get into number 4. Number 4 is to launch a strategic content piece. So this is something I talk about a lot. I actually gave a talk in Ukraine in Kiev at Social Media Week all about strategic content pieces. So I talked about them for like 45 minutes. I'm going to share with you a couple of slides from my presentation in Kiev, which I think you'll find useful. So what I'm doing right now is part of a wider strategic content piece. At Promo Republic, we launched the Agency and Freelancer Academy because we know that we're going to provide value to agency and freelancer like owners, and we know that those are our target market for the new agency solution. So this piece of content that you're watching right now is part of a wide strategy. And so this strategy, like in terms of content pieces, we have a variety of different types of content that we utilize. Things like reports, articles, listicles, Facebook posts, the Facebook Academy. We have great video content that we share, etc. And the benefits to us, like this is a screenshot from when we first launched the Academy. Within the first few days, we were able to get 36% conversion rate of people signing up for the Academy and nearly 2,000 visitors within a very short period of time without any paid promotion. And the benefits to us here are threefold. First of all, it helps us with positioning within the agency market. It's great for lead generation because it's top of funnel email acquisition and moves people through that funnel, eventually turning them into paid customers through call to actions in the webinars, for example. And it's great for customer education and stickiness. So we help our customers, we add value to them, and they're more likely then to stay using the tool. A lot of you can do this for your clients. You can build out strategic content pieces for them to help them generate leads. They have to be valuable pieces of content that are genuinely helping people out. One way that you can do this is talk with your customers and talk with your clients' customers, find out where they need support. You can go where your prospects go or where your customers go and see what questions they're asking. Quora is a great tool for that. And you can research your competitors and see what they're doing too. So Julia says, how do you define the strategic content piece? Again, my sound went out. So Julia's strategic content piece is a very open definition, basically, but I define it as a big piece of content that is there to generate leads for the business. So usually it's some form of lead magnet or something much wider and larger than that. So Henk says it sounds more B2B. Well, the example that I've showed is B2B, but it definitely isn't just B2B focused. So for example, what kind of businesses do you work with, Henk? I'll see if I can come up with a really quick example for you off the top of my head. Shoes. Okay. So a strategic content piece for shoes. What I would do is I would research what kind of trends there are on Google right now around shoes, what people are searching. I'd go to Quora and see what people are searching around shoes. You could, depending on the type of shoes that you sell, you could create a content piece such as a lead magnet saying the top 10 shoe styles of 2019 or something like that, or how to buy your first pair of whatever kind of shoes, or something like that. You could build out this content piece around that. You said shoes in big sizes. So there are a lot of options. It's definitely not just a B2B thing. If you just sell shoes in large sizes, you could write a content piece around where people can find larger shoes, for example, or above average size shoes, something like that. There are a lot of different examples. It's definitely not just a B2B option. So I hope you found that useful. I'd always recommend doing research though. So using Google Trends to see what's trending right now, use tools like BuzzSumo to see what kind of content people are sharing, and you can use tools like SEMrush and Ahrefs to get Google traffic examples. Okay, so I'm conscious of time. I want to make sure we do this. So let's get to the fifth and final tip. But then I have some more tips for you too. So please make sure you stick around. The fifth tip is to run live videos for your clients and for your own agency. According to Global Web Index, for brands, live video allows them to engage with consumers in a two-way interaction with a much greater sense of trust, transparency, and immediacy. And if you remember, we said earlier, content is king. People want genuine, meaningful relationships with brands. Live video is a great way to do that. The thing is that during these live videos, you can interact, like customers and users can interact with your page and amongst each other. They can share reactions, leave comments, ask questions, etc. And if you look at this slide, the numbers just speak for themselves. Starting from 2016, there were 3.5 billion Facebook broadcasts and hundreds of billions of people all around the world who have watched those broadcasts. And that number is just continuing to grow. The interesting thing, though, is that live videos are twice as popular as standard videos. It's really important to communicate with your customers and listen to their needs and be as transparent as possible. Facebook Live, Q&As, Instagram live streams both work really well for that. And if you want to get as more people as possible, you can promote these events and spread word about the host. So I always recommend don't just do a live stream without any planning or without any promotion, because there's the risk that you might start streaming and nobody will turn up. Live streams work best when you plan them out, when you share the fact that these are going to happen with people, and you can maybe collect some questions before doing the live stream, etc. Live streaming can make your brand and your customer's brand feel a lot more human because there's someone there to talk to customers in real time. Live streams are super easy to manage and they're very budget friendly. Like you literally just need an iPhone or a phone and you can run a live stream. Of course, you can get more complicated setups, but they work fine just off an iPhone. People love things like how-to content when it's short and easy to understand. Like these can make good live videos too, how to use a product, for example. There are lots of ways that you can leverage and utilize live video for your customers and for your own brands as well. And personally, I love doing live content, such as this webinar, Facebook Live videos, etc. I can see Leah says, i.e. post to stories without major edits to video. No, so story posting, of course, you should do and you should focus on, but I mean actual live videos. So running a live video on Facebook or on Instagram. Hopefully that's clear. Like running a live broadcast as though you're doing like a TV show or something. A lot of brands are doing that now. It's becoming extremely popular, as you can see by these two like slides or these two graphs that I've shared on the slide. Okay, so now something that is really, really important. And of course, there will also be time at the end to answer any questions that people have. I always make sure I take time to answer people's questions. Elaine says, what about Instagram TV? So I personally have never used Instagram TV. I think it was a bit of a fad, but I'm not too sure. I don't know. Like I always recommend that you test different platforms. For me, I haven't used that one personally. So how can you measure the success of running these experiments? If you remember, like I said at the start of this webinar, it's so important that you absolutely must do all of these things before running any experiments. So you need to know the purpose and the objectives of your experiments, because without them, you'll be unable to know what variations will be or how you'll determine if any experiments you did run were successful. Before you do any true experimentation, you need to define your goals, and they should align with your answers to what people call the 5 Ws. And your goals can range between a number of metrics, such as things like number of clicks, improved organic traffic, increased marketing qualified leads, increase customer acquisition, reduce bounce rate, etc. But you can't tackle all of these with one experiment because you won't be able to identify the influencing change for each one. So I really recommend that you only focus on one goal for each experiment. And setting goals, defining those goals is the absolute minimum thing that you really must do, because a successful experiment uses numerically measurable goals as opposed to something like brand awareness, which is more subjective. This is where you address the how of your experiment, like how are you going to do it and how are you going to monitor its success. So you'll need to utilize all of the ideas that you're running and the steps that you're going to take to make them happen. Now, once all of your planning is done, once all of your ducks are in a row, it's time to start the actual experiments. And this is when that planning comes into play, as you're able to create and activate your test content accordingly. So when your experiment is running, there's one key thing you have to keep in mind. This is really, really important when you're running any tests. Don't make any changes to those tests until the experiment is done, until the time frame has reached the end of what you defined it to be at the beginning, because otherwise any changes that you make will skew the results of the experiment and it just won't show you the true impact that your changes had. Then once your experiment is over, you start to analyze the results. So this is when you compile all of your data, narrow down the results into a digestible format, and determine whether or not the experiment was a success, whether it was a fail, whether it was inconclusive. One of the great ways that you can actually review data like this is in the Promo Republic agency solution. There is a reporting area, and this, to be honest with everybody, the reporting section of Promo Republic needs some improvements, and the team are working extremely hard on that to launch some really cool stuff in the agency solution soon. But you'll be able to take all of this information from your Promo Republic dashboard too. So when you are reviewing data and analyzing the metrics of your tests, you have to see like if there's a numerical statistical increase in the goals that you set, then the experiment has been successful. So when classifying the results of any experiment, you always have to keep in mind the following. So a failure means that the results you receive don't reflect the goals that you set. An inconclusive result means that the analysis doesn't show enough change to draw a conclusion. And a success means that your experiment exceeded your goals. So these are the 5 key and core things that you must take into consideration and think about when you're running any tests and any experiments. So we're going to stop and take some questions in a moment. But before we do that, I just want to share with you all, anyone that's here, I can see there's a good number of you on this webinar. Like there are ways that Promo Republic and specifically the agency solution can help you build, like scale your agency, make more money and save yourself time. And the agency specific solution is split into 3 core parts. So that's the creation, the collaboration, and the reporting. And these are the 3 core areas that I know and we know from speaking with agency owners and freelancers are really core to improving your businesses. So I know a lot of you said that you are creating content for your clients and you're managing their social media posts. How many of you guys are using tools like Canva, Adobe Spark, maybe Photoshop to create graphics or to create content for your clients? Yeah, so Natalie says yes, Leah says yes. Hank says yes, Caitlin says yes, Elaine says yes, Ben says yes. Okay, so a lot of you are using tools like Canva and Photoshop. And then once you've created that content, what happens next? Do you download it to your computer and then upload it into a scheduling tool like Buffer or Hootsuite or maybe Promo Republic? Is that what a lot of you are doing? Hank says yes, Leah says yes, Hootsuite, Ben says exactly. Okay, so I have a story to share. My agency, when we first started out, when we were offering social media management as a service, I was doing exactly what all of you 5 or 6 people have just shared your stories with me. I was exactly that. We were creating the graphics in Canva and in Adobe Spark. We were downloading them to our computer, or my social media manager was downloading them to his computer. He was then logging into Hootsuite. As I told you, I used to work at Hootsuite, so I love using Hootsuite. And we would then upload things into Hootsuite. Now, one of the great features within Promo Republic is the graphics editor. So imagine having Canva, something similar, built into the scheduling platform. So you don't have to use Canva and then download it. You literally just create something in your scheduling software and then schedule it immediately. This is one of the features of the Promo Republic tool and is available in the agency solution too. Just this alone saved my social media manager 6 hours per week. So imagine if yourself or your team could be saving 6 hours per week just through using something like this, through using Premier Republic. This is one of the really cool things about the solution. The second one, this is really important for agency owners. I read a statistic that said 82% of agency owners say their biggest pain point is collaborating with their customers. So that means getting posts approved and receiving comments on posts, etc. Now, this that I'm telling you about right now is specifically only available in the agency solution of Premier Republic, but you have this collaboration platform, which is fully white labeled. So you can have your own branding, your own logo. So when your client comes to this collaboration platform, they think that it's a tool that you've built as your agency's tool. So imagine how impressive you look if you have your own social media collaboration tool. But basically, when you schedule your posts in Premier Republic, when you have the agency solution, you can also schedule them for approval or for collaboration. And your client can have login to your collaboration platform with all of your own branding, your own domain, etc. They can come in, they can approve posts, they can add comments, they can reject, etc. Really smoothing up that collaboration process with your clients. And I know that this is a big pain point for a lot of you. And of course, if you're managing multiple clients, each client can have their own business profile within Premier Republic Agency Solution. So you can very quickly and easily switch clients without having to log out, log back in, etc. It's very, very simple. So I said I'm not here to sell you completely on the agency solution or Premier Republic. I just wanted to share a couple of things with you. As you can see, Elaine says Premier is fabulous for scheduling, and there's a lot of great feedback here. And if you're using the standard version of Premier Republic, but you're running an agency with multiple clients, I really recommend you learn a little bit more about the agency solution because it's even better. It will improve your workflows. It will help you make additional revenue and it will save time too. Just as a brief conclusion about this to show the solution up against some of its competitors within the agency space, we actually did a calculation for a typical agency that maybe manages 30 different social media accounts and has a few team members that wants approval workflow. And also one of the other things I didn't even talk about was the social monitoring, where we can track all of your comments and engagements from all your different social platforms all in one dashboard. If you were to choose Premier Republic over one of these competitors, it could save you anywhere between $600 to $5,400 every single year. So not only is the platform incredibly intelligent and incredibly smart and simple to use, it's also very well priced. I actually tell the team at Premier Republic, I think it's too well priced. I think they should up this pricing. So I'm not sure how much longer this pricing will be around for. Who knows? But as I said, I'm not here to completely sell you on the agency solution. This webinar here is to provide you with as much value as possible and to help you guys out. If you did, though, want to learn a little bit more about how the agency solution can help your business, or you just want to see what it looks like, you want to see how the white labeling works, maybe you want to see the social monitoring, you just have a couple of questions, I'm going to share a link with you in the chat where you can actually schedule a call with a member of the team. They're not going to hard sell you or anything like that, don't worry. And anyone that schedules one of these calls, you'll also be offered a special discount. This is specifically for people on these webinars, a special discount for the agency package. So it'll be even cheaper than what you see on the screen. But as I said earlier on, the team can only take on, or they only have the space right now to take on 5 of these calls over the next week. So if you are interested, if you do want to learn a bit more, if you just have some questions, I really would recommend that you book a call as soon as you can before they get taken up, because there are over 45 people on this webinar at one point. I think there's about 35 of you here now, but I know for a fact that each week more than 5 people try and schedule a call. So if you do want to find out a bit more, I really would recommend you do that. But that's enough of me telling you about how wonderful, how Premier Republic is. Of course, genuinely believe that. I used to work for Hootsuite, who are probably the best known company within social media management and content distribution software. And I have a great relationship with the team there still. And I genuinely believe, as a initial agency owner, someone that's running a successful agency, I think the Premier Republic solution is better value, but also gives you a lot more than Hootsuite does, for example. So that's that. Now we have enough time to take any questions. So if anybody has questions on anything that we've covered today, just anything agency, freelancer related, please just let me know. And I'm here to answer all of those. So you have as much time as possible. So Leah says, dang, we're in a contract with Hootsuite right now. Okay. Well, Leah, maybe still book onto a call if you're interested to see a bit more. It's always good to evaluate your options, right? So yeah, if anybody has questions, I'm happy to take them. So George says, is the webinar recorded? George, it is recorded. It will be available within the Premier Republic Academy hub in a couple of days' time, or on the YouTube channel. I will just try and get the website URL for you where you can sign up to the Academy. There's a link to the Academy. You sign up and you can get access to all of the recordings, notifications for next webinars, etc. And also, before we start taking any questions, one thing I would love to ask, if any of you have seen some value in this webinar, if you've enjoyed it, if you've seen some benefit, if you think it's going to help you and your businesses, I would really, really appreciate it if you just do one thing for me. I have to make one ask personally, right? It would be rude not to. I'm sharing a link in the chat box to my YouTube channel where I share a lot of insight-driven and valuable content for agency owners, for freelancers, for entrepreneurs. So if you found this this webinar useful, it would be awesome if you could go and check out my YouTube channel. And if you like what you see, subscribe. I would really appreciate that. It'd be great to see some of you there. So let's take questions. Lucas says, "Hi Dylan. How do you approach clients to offer a shift in their content strategy?" Okay, good question, Lucas. So if they've employed you to work on their social media management, you are the expert. So they're employing you for that reason. So it should be fairly straightforward to explain the strategy to them. Just show them the value and show them why you feel things should change. That would be my advice. Hank says, "Can you talk about content creation ideas next time?" So we did previously do a webinar about content creation, Hank. So maybe go and check the Academy. But I will definitely add that to the requested list. No problem at all. So Julius says, "How do you price this type of service and demonstrate value to clients or potential clients?" Yeah, so Julius, my agency doesn't actually offer social media management anymore. We specialize in paid acquisition. So we just run paid ads campaigns for SaaS businesses. In terms of how to price this, I always find out the average lifetime value of a customer for one of my clients, and I try and show them some kind of ROI. I know it can be hard sometimes for social marketing services, but I show them a clear path to ROI, like how many clients they would have to generate to see a return on their investment, and how we can help them do that with content. That would be my best advice. Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate that. Does anybody else have any other questions? Again, one more time, I'm going to share the link where if you are interested to learn a little bit more about the Promo Republic agency solution, I really encourage you to book onto one of these calls. As I said, only 5 will be available. They might already be gone because I know there's been a lot of you on this webinar today, so they might already be gone. But there will also be a special discount offered to anybody who is on that call if you do wish to take up the solution too. So please go ahead and check that out. It doesn't look like we have any other questions. So unless anything comes in the next like 10 seconds or so, I will wrap this up, and I would love to see you next week on the next webinar. So these happen every single week, so it'd be great to see some of you again next week if you found this valuable. Cool. Thank you, Todd. Okay, great. Thank you everyone for your time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you all again very soon.